Welcome, coin lovers. Now imagine this. 3 coins from America's past, each one carrying mystery, power, and stories that have stunned collectors around the world. The 1776 to 1976 D Eisenhower dollar, the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar, and the 1973 D Kennedy half dollar. These 3 pieces of metal look ordinary at first glance, but when you dig deeper, you find secrets that are almost unbelievable. Coins struck for a nation's bicentennial celebration, coins that hide tiny errors which change their destiny, and coins minted in such low numbers that today they are hunted by treasure seekers everywhere. And here's the shocker. Their worth in the collector world can rise so high that it has left even experts speechless. These are not just coins. They are pieces of American history frozen in time. And today, we're going to uncover every single detail. Now let us turn to the 1776 to 1976 D Eisenhower dollar. At first sight, this coin is larger than most American change, heavy in the hand, with Dwight D. Eisenhower's familiar portrait on the obverse. But the moment you realize why it was struck, its meaning changes completely. It was not just another coin for circulation. It was a special issue to honor 200 years of American independence, the bicentennial celebration of 1976. That is why the date on the coin is not a single year, but the double date 1776 to 1976. No other Eisenhower dollar carries this exact look, and that makes it instantly stand apart. The history behind this piece is tied directly to the nation's identity. By the early 1970s, the United States Mint knew that the 200th birthday of American independence was approaching, and something had to be done on a grand scale. In 1973, a design competition was held. Out of the many artists who submitted ideas, a young man only 22 years old, Dennis R. Williams, won with his bold vision. His reverse design featured the Liberty Bell, a timeless symbol of freedom, superimposed on the surface of the moon. It was brilliant symbolism, connecting the revolution of 1776 with the triumph of space exploration just 2 centuries later. When his work was chosen, the Eisenhower dollar was transformed into a commemorative masterpiece. The Denver Mint began striking these bicentennial Eisenhower dollars in 1975 and 1976. For circulation, the planches were copper-nickel clad, silvery in appearance but with no precious metal content. But for collectors, special editions were struck in 40% silver. That meant that in some hands, this coin was not only a patriotic token but a genuine piece of silver, adding tangible weight to its historical meaning. Collectors today still chase after the silver strikes, while others hunt the ordinary circulation strikes in the highest possible grade. What makes this coin truly fascinating is that it did not emerge from the presses perfectly every time. The Denver Mint, though efficient, produced countless varieties and errors that today are hot targets in the numismatic world. Doubled dies, where elements of the lettering or design appear doubled under magnification, are known and cherished. Off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, are eagerly sought. Even clipped planches, where part of the coin's edge is missing, become treasures because they turn a mass-produced item into a unique survivor. Collectors know that millions of these bicentennial dollars exist, but they also know that condition is everything. Circulated pieces are everywhere, often dulled, scratched, and worn from decades of handling. But mint state survivors, coins that never saw use and still gleam with their original luster, are incredibly scarce. When such coins are graded at the highest levels by professional services, they command astonishing results. There have been moments in auction halls when bidding erupted into a frenzy, as determined collectors drove the price of one shining example into territory no one had expected. The final hammer prices left even experts stunned, proving that demand could transform a $1 coin into something worth thousands. Yet the story of the 1776 to 1976 D Eisenhower dollar is not only about money. It is a cultural and emotional marker. It tells the story of a country reflecting on 2 centuries of independence, remembering the sacrifices of its past, and celebrating its modern achievements. The Liberty Bell on the coin's reverse rings as a reminder of the revolution, while the moon beneath it recalls the courage of astronauts who reached for the stars. Holding this coin is like holding a bridge between centuries, a small but powerful reminder of where America came from and where it was going. There is also a social irony hidden in its story. The Eisenhower dollar was minted in huge numbers, but ordinary Americans never truly adopted it in daily life. The coin was heavy and inconvenient, too large for wallets or pockets, and soon earned a reputation as impractical. As a result, many sat untouched in rolls and bags, left to gather dust. Decades later, those forgotten rolls became the hunting ground for collectors, who now dig through them to find sharp, pristine strikes with unusual varieties. What the public ignored has become the collector's treasure. One of the most exciting details for specialists is the distinction between the so-called Type 1 and Type 2 reverses. On the Type 1, the lettering on the reverse is bold and block-like, while on the Type 2 it is thinner, sharper, and more detailed. Spotting these differences requires patience, but to a collector, identifying one variety over another is like solving a mystery. That detective-like experience makes the coin endlessly fascinating, and it fuels the drive to keep searching. And then there are the silver issues. Struck for collectors in limited numbers, these bicentennial Eisenhower dollars gleam with a richer tone, their edges shining with the gray of real silver. In auctions, high-grade silver strikes have shocked audiences by climbing to prices so high that they defy the logic of their humble origins. Imagine a coin that once represented a single dollar in spending power now trading hands for enough to pay for a new piece of technology or even a family vacation. That transformation from pocket change to prize collectible is part of the magic of numismatics. But the deeper truth is that the 1776 to 1976 D Eisenhower dollar captures an era. The mid-1970s were turbulent and inspiring. The aftershocks of Vietnam, the Cold War tensions, the space race victories, and the pride of surviving 2 centuries as a nation. All of this weight rests in the palm of your hand when you hold one of these coins. That is why collectors speak of them with such respect. It is not only about rarity, not only about value, but about the meaning embedded in metal. Even today, new discoveries keep this coin alive. Collectors occasionally uncover previously unnoticed die varieties, or examples in gem condition from old bank hoards. Each discovery reignites the excitement, each auction pushes the boundaries of value, and each story keeps the bicentennial dollar at the center of the coin-collecting world. And so, the 1776 to 1976 D Eisenhower dollar is both common and extraordinary. Common, because millions exist; extraordinary, because only a fraction shine with rarity, error, or perfection. For those who find them, the reward is not just financial, it is a thrill of holding history itself. Now, having explored this patriotic giant, it is time to step forward into another chapter of the Eisenhower series. The next coin, struck just a few years earlier in 1972 at the Denver Mint, looks similar on the surface but hides a secret world of varieties and surprises that have kept collectors chasing after it for decades. Now let us turn to the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar, a coin that at first glance looks almost identical to the other Eisenhower dollars of the 1970s, but in truth it hides one of the most fascinating stories of the entire series. The Denver Mint production of this coin tells us not only about American money in the 1970s, but also about the technical struggles of the mint, the surprising varieties that slipped into circulation, and the treasures that collectors chase even today. The first detail to understand is why the Eisenhower dollar even existed. When the U.S. Mint introduced the Eisenhower dollar in 1971, it was the nation's first new large-sized dollar coin since the peace dollar of 1935. It was intended to honor both President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who had died in 1969, and America's recent success in landing astronauts on the moon. The coin was big, bold, and patriotic. But in practice, the public found it cumbersome. Its large size made it awkward for wallets and vending machines, and circulation demand was low. Still, the Mint kept producing them, and by 1972 the Denver facility was in full swing, striking millions of coins that would soon become central to collectors' stories. What sets the 1972 Eisenhower dollars apart are their remarkable reverse design variations. The Philadelphia Mint produced 3 distinct reverse types in 1972, each with subtle differences in the shape of Florida and the islands on the earth behind the eagle. But the Denver Mint, striking coins marked with a D, only used one of these reverse designs. That may sound unremarkable, but in numismatics, it makes all the difference. Specialists quickly realized that while Philadelphia coins could be sorted into Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3, the Denver issues were more straightforward, yet still capable of producing their own quirks, doubling, and striking errors. Collectors today often compare the two mints, studying the artistry and flaws that distinguish each one. The Denver Mint struck over 92 million Eisenhower dollars, dated 1972. Such a massive number might suggest that the coin is common and worthless, but as collectors know, numbers can be deceiving. Most of those coins circulated heavily, collecting scratches, dents, and wear. Only a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition, and those are the coins that cause excitement in auctions. A 1972 D Eisenhower dollar graded at the highest mint state level can leap from pocket change value into the hundreds, even thousands, shocking those who thought such coins were ordinary. One of the reasons collectors love this coin is its role as a teaching tool. It demonstrates how even the same year and design can produce radically different collecting experiences. For beginners, the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar is accessible, a coin you can still find in pocket change or at the local coin shop for a modest price. For advanced specialists, however, the hunt is far deeper. They look for double die obverses, where the motto "In God We Trust" or the date shows faint duplication. They study die cracks and cuds, tiny breaks in the die that left raised scars on the coin surface. They search for off-center strikes and other mint errors that transform an ordinary Eisenhower into a one-of-a-kind specimen. Each discovery adds another layer to the story. The historical context makes the 1972 D even more fascinating. America in the early 1970s was facing inflation, political scandals, and social change. Coins were no longer silver. Since 1965, circulating U.S. coins were made of copper-nickel clad. For many citizens, the Eisenhower dollar was a reminder how times had shifted, big and impressive in size, but lacking the silver content of earlier dollars. Some even felt the coin symbolized a nation trying to hold on to tradition while moving into a new economic reality. Collectors today see that tension in every 1972 D Eisenhower dollar they hold, a mixture of history, politics, and design frozen in metal. At coin shows and auctions, the excitement surrounding high-grade 1972 D Eisenhower dollars is unforgettable. Dealers tell stories of lucky finds. A coin pulled from an old roll that grades MS-66 or MS-67, sparking gasps when its value soars into the hundreds. Once in a while, a nearly perfect coin emerges, and bidding wars erupt. Imagine the shock when a coin once dismissed as heavy pocket change suddenly sells for an amount equal to a month's rent or more. Those moments remind collectors why they search so tirelessly, because hidden treasure can appear at any time. Another intriguing aspect is the collector psychology around this coin. Many hobbyists ignored Eisenhower dollars for decades, considering them too modern, too common, or too clunky. But in recent years, interest has surged. The challenge of finding truly high-grade examples has drawn new attention, and errors continue to command premiums. The 1972 D, with its massive mintage yet limited supply of gems, has become a battleground where patient hunters are rewarded. What was once overlooked is now celebrated. For educators, the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar is also a gateway into the art of coin grading. Novices quickly learn the difference between a dull, circulated piece and a bright, mint-state survivor. They discover the importance of strike quality, luster, and contact marks. In that way, this coin is not only a collectible but a classroom in the palm of your hand. The design itself carries timeless symbolism. The obvos, with Eisenhower's stern yet dignified profile, represents leadership during one of America's most critical eras, World War II and the early Cold War. The reverse, featuring the eagle landing on the moon clutching an olive branch, captures both peace and triumph, forever linking the coin to the Apollo 11 mission. To hold the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar is to hold a piece of that story, a fusion of military legacy, political leadership, and space exploration. And so, the 1972 D Eisenhower dollar occupies a strange space in American coinage. It is at once common and elusive, ordinary in the eyes of the casual observer, but extraordinary for those who know what to look for. It is a coin that hides its secrets until studied closely, a coin that can jump in value from a single dollar to shocking figures under the right circumstances. Most importantly, it is a coin that teaches us the beauty of detail, the thrill of discovery, and the truth that history often hides in plain sight. As we leave behind the 1972 Denver issue, the story of Eisenhower dollars continues with another chapter. Just a few years later, in 1974, The U.S. Mint would strike coins that appeared normal but became infamous because of a secret experiment with aluminum planchets, an experiment that today fuels legends and million-dollar stories. But before we reach that revelation, the 1974 Eisenhower dollar itself deserves our full attention. The next coin. Now let us explore the 1973 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that at first seems ordinary but in reality holds one of the most interesting places in the Kennedy half series. When collectors talk about hidden rarities and overlooked treasures of the 1970s, this Denver minted coin often enters a conversation because of its unusual path through history and the unique challenges it presents to anyone trying to build a complete set. The Kennedy half dollar itself was born in tragedy and national mourning. When President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1963, the nation was in shock. Almost immediately, plans began to create a coin in his memory, and by early 1964, the Kennedy half dollar was already in production. The coin carried his bold, youthful profile on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse, becoming both a circulating coin and a memorial. The public loved it so much that half dollars disappeared from circulation almost overnight, hoarded as keepsakes. By 1973, the coin was still relatively new in America's pockets, but the excitement of the early years had given way to a strange reality. People continued to hoard them, and circulation was thin. The year 1973 was especially unusual because half dollars dated 1973, whether from Philadelphia or Denver, were not released into general circulation at all. Instead, they were struck only for mint sets and proof sets, which meant the average American never found a 1973 half dollar in their change. The Denver Mint's output, marked with a D, went straight into government package sets, where they sat protected for decades. This decision makes the 1973 half dollar stand out immediately. It is not rare in the sense of mintage numbers. Millions were struck, but it is rare in the sense of availability. Without opening a mint set, you simply could not get one. That distinction has enormous consequences for collectors. Because these coins never clink through cash registers or jangled in pockets, they often remain in relatively high grades. Yet, ironically, because they were sealed in government packaging, many developed cloudy surfaces or spots from storage. Finding a truly pristine, brilliant example requires patience. In top condition, a 1973 half dollar can bring prices that shock newcomers who assume it is just another modern half dollar. It is moments like these, when a supposedly common coin suddenly leaps into high-value territory, that remind collectors why every date and mint mark matters. The design itself remained unchanged from the earlier years. The obverse displays Gilroy Roberts' portrait of Kennedy, sharp and striking, with his hair rendered in fine detail. The reverse by Frank Gasparro features a heraldic eagle, arrows, and olive branch, surrounded by 50 stars. To many, it is one of the most patriotic designs in American coinage, balancing strength with hope. On the 1973 issue, sharpness of strike can vary, and specialists look closely at details like the feathers of the eagle or the definition of Kennedy's hair. Strong strikes command premiums, while weakly struck examples are less desirable. Errors and varieties also make the 1973 half dollar a playground for treasure hunters. Some coins show doubling on the obverse inscriptions, especially around "In God We Trust." Others reveal die clashes, where parts of the reverse design faintly appear on the obverse due to dies striking without a planchet in between. There are even off-center strikes and other mint mistakes that slip through quality control. Each one transforms a coin from ordinary to extraordinary, sending its value far beyond what the untrained eye would ever guess. Culturally, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar connects to the continuing fascination with Kennedy's legacy. A decade after his death, his image on the half dollar was still a powerful symbol of youth, promise, and the tragic loss of a leader. Collectors often note that holding one feels like holding a fragment of the 1960s dream that was cut short. In a nation still grappling with Watergate, Vietnam, and inflation in 1973, the Kennedy half stood as a reminder of a hopeful past. That emotional weight makes it far more than metal. It is memory, history, and identity captured in copper and nickel. Auction stories surrounding this coin are some of the most surprising. While a normal uncirculated example might sell for a modest sum, the top-graded pieces in MS-67 or MS-68 have shocked bidders by reaching prices in the hundreds or even beyond, stunning those who never imagined a clad half dollar could command such sums. Dealers tell stories of collectors who dismissed the 1973 D as just another modern until they saw the hammer fall at auction, and suddenly they realized how wrong they were. Those moments create suspense and drama in the hobby, where value appears where least expected. The demand for the 1973 D half dollar also stems from its key role in completing sets. A collector aiming for a full run of Kennedy halves cannot ignore it. The fact that it was never released into circulation means its presence in any collection instantly tells a story of mint sets cracked open, of coins preserved by accident, of hidden gems discovered decades later. In this way, the 1973 D half dollar is both common and scarce, both accessible and elusive, a paradox that keeps collectors engaged. As time passes, more mint sets are broken apart, releasing 1973 D halves into the market, but high-grade survivors remain elusive. Each year, grading services certify fewer in the top ranks, and that scarcity fuels competition. The coin is a lesson in how availability does not always match mintage numbers, and how government policy, the choice to withhold coins from circulation, can shape collecting trend for decades to come. When you hold a 1973 D Kennedy half dollar, you are holding a piece of American history that most people never touched in daily life. You are holding a coin that connects both memory and myth, that tells a story of tragedy, policy, and collecting passion. It is not just a piece of copper nickel. It is a chapter in the American experience, and for those who understand its secrets, its value is far more than 50 cents.